Hey guys, Wags with Ironman 4x4. Thanks for clicking in on the video. Today, you and I are gonna get this premium bull bar front bumper installed on your 3rd gen Tundra. Get all your parts laid out the way I have, because you wanna make sure you have everything. Grab your tools, I'll grab mine. We'll get this thing put on the truck. Now, you don't have to put your truck in the air because we're just putting the bumper on the front. It all comes down to if you want more room to work or if you have the access to that equipment. But if you're working in your garage, make sure you put your truck in park, chock your tires, set your e-brake, do all those safety things. If you are gonna pull the wheels and tires off, throw them underneath the frame so if it falls, it won't squish you. Now, to get that front active air dam to fold down so that we can remove that unit, you need to start your truck or have it running, turn it off, and within 45 seconds, hold the windshield wiper stick, hold it in the up position for 2 seconds. That front air dam will push down and it'll stay in that position. You can turn the truck off. If you need to get it back up, you just turn the truck back on, put it in drive, it folds back up. It's a great trick also if you're looking to do oil changes or any other services. But for our purposes, we're gonna drop it down so we can get it removed. We gotta pull 4 of these 10 mil bolts. One here, 2, 3, and 4. We've got some wiring plugs right here. We'll undo that. 2 plugs over there. We got a plastic clip we'll pop here, and 1 here. Let's pop this clip out right here. Grab yourself a flathead or a little clip removal tool. Pop that up and we'll set it aside. All right, do the same thing on the other side. Let's get this wire harness on the front left side of the truck. Just kind of want to depress that little tab right there. It lifts the front of the little connector up. You can slide it out. We'll grab these on the right side, push those down, slide them back, just like that. And then looking down from the top of the grill, we're gonna pull that 10 mil out and that 10 mil out. That'll let this bracket go with the grill when we pull it out. And we'll get this other bracket. Let's jump over to our fenders. We're gonna pull these fender flares off, and there's 1, 2, and 3 10 mil screws that we need to pull out. You don't need to pull the whole thing off. We just need to get the front of the flare to kind of peel away. Then we can work on getting the rest of that front grille and bumper pulled away from the truck. We'll do it here on the front left and then jump over and do the front right. All right, we'll start with this 10 mil here. All right, now you can just get in there with a little bit of pressure, just kind of want to pop out. But that's all we're trying to do. We just want to pull this back and away. And I will go do the same thing on the other side. All right, now I'm under the front of the truck and we got to pull 4 10 mil bolts out. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, all of our bolts are out and this front grille is ready to come off. But the thing I left for last is we need to pull the plastics back over here on the front quarter panel. So just get in here with your fingers kind of behind the plastics and you just want to pull out like that. And this will pop just straight out like that. I'll do the other side. Everything should be free. We can pull that grill right off in one piece. All right, grill's ready to come off. I'm gonna make sure everything up top is loose and then grab here. If you have a friend and want help, that works too. There we go, and everything is out. Now with the grill off, let me give you a quick overview of what we're gonna do here next steps. So, different levels of Tundra, different trim levels come with different toys on them. If you have the front active aero flip down aero dam, this is the motor, this is the splitter here that folds down. It is attached to this crash bar. Now all this removes the same way whether you have it or not. There's 8 17 millimeter bolts that hold it together. You've got 2 up here, 2 down here, 2 and 2. Fastest, most efficient way to do that is grab a 17 millimeter socket so you can get these outside bolts out quickly, but you're gonna need a 17 millimeter wrench to get this inside one that fits under the shroud here and here. Before you start ripping bolts out though, we need to attack the wiring first. So there's a wire harness for this motor unit. Grab a clip removal tool, we'll pop this clip here and we'll undo this connector on this side right here. It's on a plastic bracket, so just rock it easy. And then push this tab down here. There we go. That just slides out like that. Okay guys, if your truck came equipped with the front active aero dam that folds down, we need to relocate this motor. If you don't, if you leave it unhooked and this plug is unhooked, the CAN bus on the truck freaks out. It'll give you a bunch of error codes and all that. So instead of coming up with a really expensive adapter to plug on, we came up with a much simpler solution that's way more affordable. So we're gonna take this motor off, we'll do a couple adjustments, we're gonna fit a bracket to it, and we're gonna relocate this motor up and out of the way. To do that, we need to remove this from the crash bar, and there's 6 10 mm bolts, 2 on top, 2 on the back, and then we've got to dig deep from the front of the little splitter here, and we'll remove those 2 also. Now, if your truck didn't come with this stuff, then don't worry about it. Just skip ahead. This stuff really doesn't apply to you. Put this back over, and that motor unit comes right out just like that. We're done with this, so we can set it aside and we'll work on that motor unit. Now with the motor unit out, we've got to make a cut. We are gonna cut right across here. So grab whatever cutting tool you like to use. Cutoff disc on a grinder works well. Jigsaw, multi-tool, whatever you need. It just needs to cut, be able to cut through about 1 inch thick. We're gonna take off as much of this as we can. That way it's out of the way. All right, it doesn't have to be the cleanest thing in the world. No one's gonna see it but you. Anyways, this is a little rough, but effectively that's what we want. We want this guy out of here. Now, this can swing back and forth. It's not gonna interfere with anything. Okay, now we can get this bracket right here. This is the front aero dam motor relocate bracket. So I just put some arrows here with a Sharpie. That is up. This is the back, that's the front. And while we're here, I'm gonna go ahead and put the top bracket on this motor unit. So you're looking for this little L bracket that's got the 90 brake right there. So grab that bracket. So we'll take our bolt, we'll drop it down the top. We'll get this flat washer underneath, followed by the 10 mm nylock nut. There it goes. And then I'll take my number 4 and my number 10. Okay, and leave it loose. So this is what it looks like. Let me just kind of spin it so you have some perspective here. That's what we're dealing with. So the plug, basically this whole thing's been flipped upside down. The plug for the connector is now up top and to the right if you're facing the truck. This is going to bolt right in here and up top there. So we've got to do a couple little modifications because we want to get all this stuff moved around. We need to move this middle support, so there's a 10 mm bolt right here, so we'll start with removing that. So once that's out, set that aside, you don't want to lose it. The next bolt we'll undo is this guy up here on our hood latch assembly. Set that up there. Grab a clip removal tool and we're going to pop this wire harness out, nice and careful like. Then we're going to remove this cross water hose. This is what pumps water to your turbos, keeps them cool. Rock that out. Come over here, same thing. Be careful, but you can just gently get that kind of out of the way like that. Take the clip removal tool. We're going to pop that guy out just like that. And then this is the part where you want to be careful. I'm going to set that back over here. We are going to pull this water hose gently down. You want to just slowly stretch it and then get it right underneath that, just like that, and let it bounce back. We want to move that back behind there. Almost forgot, I need to drill one hole. So remember this little hose clip that secures the hose right there? We're going to relocate this into the top of the motor just like that. So I'm going to drill a hole here. I grabbed a 1/4 inch bit, it might be 5/16. And I'm going to go right here So we got our hole drilled. I am gonna do one more little modification. This clip here has these little wings. So I'm gonna get in there with a pair of wire cutters. I'm gonna clip that extra material away because I want it to try to sit as flush up in there as we can get it. It's just those two little wing tabs that came out. So take your little hose clip, pop it in from underneath. Yeah, buddy. And that will help keep our hose stretched back and away from this housing. Not that it would really do anything to it, but it just keeps it clean, keeps it away. This is gonna fit right in behind there. So grab these two Ironman bolts. They're a number 10 mil head and a washer. It's extra long so we get good thread engagement. And this will hit right here. Awesome. And then what that does is with the bracket here, that leaves these spots open for those two brackets that come down for our radiator louver support. So I'm going to tighten those bad boys down. That clip that we relocated up here towards the top, and see how that fits in? So I'm pulling the hose this way. I'm trying to get as much stretch back in there if you can see. And then it clips in. Sweet. Now we left this with a little bit of slack so we can kind of move it around. These are slotted here so they can go up and down. And then we'll take that OEM bolt and that just goes right back in. Okay, now that I've got the motor unit loosely fitted here, I'm gonna grab my hand tools. I'm gonna make sure all my alignment's good. One area of focus, make sure that the motor unit clears that. And you've got a bunch of up and down adjustment. So now it's just getting it to fit just right and then lock it down. Make sure you're being careful here because the top of that housing's plastic. So if you go crazy, you can snap it. But we did put a big flat washer there, so as soon as that lock washer under the head of the bolt flattens out, you're good. Oh, one thing I forgot is we got to clip this back in. Kind of open those jaws up on the clamp there. Rock the hose in. Just be careful, push on the bracket and not on the hose coupler there. We can just bend that back just a tad. Now you're all cleared. Now we can get our wire harness hooked back up, and that is gonna go just like that, hooked back up, which is awesome. This, we can make the stretch and go right back down there on that cross support. Now, we provide you with these little shorty crush tubes, and if you wanna put them back here behind this bracket, you can then put your motor mount on the back side of the bracket and the crush tube to space it further back into your grill. To get our winch tray on, we need to knock out this threaded stud right here in the middle of the frame horn and right here in the middle of that frame horn. So grab yourself a sledge or a heavy hammer and smack them right out. All right, grab these nut plates, and what you wanna do is feed these inside the frame rail. You can see you've got a hole here and here. So try to line those up the best that you can. We'll do the same thing on the other side, and these are here so that we can bolt our recovery points in. Grab your front left recovery point, sticker faces out, just like that. We're gonna fit this in here. Now, those OEM M12s that we took out, take those and hand thread those in, but don't tighten them down, leave them loose, because we want this recovery point to be able to move around a little bit, because we're gonna feed some more M12 bolts up underneath, and we need it loose so that we can find that nut plate. So grab 2 sets of hardware. These are M12 by 40 millimeter long. These are the ones that didn't come assembled. They're just kind of out on their own. So grab 2 of those, grab a split washer and a flat washer. Once you have 2 of these setups, we're gonna put them up underneath the recovery point and grab into that nut plate that's inside the frame horn. Now this takes a little bit of finessing. I like to look up here and make sure I can kind of see that nut plate, the threads lining up. So I'll feed this up through. I've got my other hand on the plate itself, and I'm just gonna kind of wiggle everything around until I can get that plate to hover over the top of that bolt and grab a thread. There we go. All right, I'm gonna leave those bolts a little bit loose. We're gonna tighten down these OEM bolts. Those are 17s. So we'll draw everything kind of down and back. Get it snug. Now we can tighten that up. Grab a 19. All right, and that's how that looks there. And if you look through the frame horn, you can see everything bit down nice and tight. I'll grab the recovery point for the right-hand side and get this one installed. All right, now grab your winch bracket just like this, and we're going to fit it right over those recovery points. And I'm gonna kind of brace it, and then I've got a bolt right here, and I'm just gonna run it through this top hole right there and on the other side, just so that it holds in place. I don't want this thing falling down. So I've got this braced here. I'm gonna grab one of these internal plates. They look like this. And the one that goes on the front left side is gonna have the same kind of angle to it as the back of the frame. We'll feed that plate right up behind the recovery point, and then we can catch that top welded nut. And then do the same thing with this plate on the passenger side. And don't forget, the 50 millimeter long bolts go on the top right here, and the 40s go on the bottom. All these are gonna be 19 millimeters. All right, next step, now that we've got everything kind of snugged down, we need to mark with a paint pen where we're gonna drill these holes on the frame rail, because we have to go through the frame here on the outside and get to the inside. We're gonna run some cross bolts to really, really tie this winch tray and make sure it's super solid. So I'm gonna mark the outside of the frame rail, and then I'm also gonna mark the inside of the frame rail too. Okay, so you can mark these holes with a paint pen, or you can grab a drill bit and use these brackets as guides and drill pilot holes. Then what we'll do, we'll pull this back off, we'll drill out the proper size holes, get our crush tubes installed through the front of the frame horns, get it all back on, run our bolts down. All right, the outsides of the frame are all drilled out. All right, grab a 19, we'll pull these two and these two, get our winch tray off the truck, then we can finish drilling and get it ready to put those crush sleeves in. There's a pilot hole there. All right, now that we got our holes drilled in our frame rail, grab one of these long through bolts and feed it from the outside in, and make sure that your holes line up properly. Now, even if you have to wall these things out a little bit, not a big deal. They're gonna have that plate over them. Once you've got that, grab this thing. It looks like a little tube on a T-stick here, the lollipop. This is a crush tube, and we've got this little stick on the end so that you can feed it through like that. And then what you wanna do is get it all the way back there so that when your bolt comes through, yeah, that'll fit in there just like that. As we tighten everything down, the frame rails are gonna squeeze and hit that crush tube. That way we know everything is locked down nice and tight. I'm gonna feed the second one in, and we'll get that front through bolt through just like that. You can either cut these little lollipop sticks, or I just like to kind of bend them out of the way. So I'll bend them up like this, and then just work them back into the frame rail if you can. Cool, I'll do the same thing on the other side. All right, now we can get the winch tray back on. I've got these M12s, these long 50s sitting on the top, and I'm gonna just lift this back up into place. Before you put this rear recovery through bolt in, grab this bracket. We're gonna run the bolt just like this and then put that in. This bracket is gonna be for our side gravel guard protection later when we bolt that on. All right, make sure that bracket is nice and sitting flat. Got that tightened down. I'll do the same thing on the other side. All right, we'll feed this plate in up on the driver's side. And again, you're gonna need to kind of pull these bolts back through the frame. You just don't want them to fall into the frame rail, because if you lose that crush sleeve, you're gonna be in big trouble. All right, so we'll get our flat washer, split washer, and nut over that. Finger tight that down. Do the same on the bottom and the other two on the other side. Now I'm gonna grab these 40 millimeter long M12s and get those hand threaded back in. We'll grab ourselves a 19 millimeter socket and we can start tightening the front of this down. All right, now before we get everything tightened down, it's a great time to go ahead and try to center up your winch tray because your bumper shell is gonna hang on that winch tray. So this is kind of your left and right adjustment. So you can grab a tape measure and you can cross measure from points to make sure you're centered up. I've already done that. I've got this thing looking really, really good. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten it down. All right, let's grab these bad boys and get them plugged in here and here on each side. So we'll fit that through, flat washer, split washer, nut. All right, we've got all of our fasteners in. We've got our winch tray centered on the truck. Now we can get everything locked down. So grab a 19 millimeter wrench and a 19 socket and just kind of work your way through. All right, let's get these through bolts on our frames locked down. All right, now is a great time to put a winch in your truck before we get the bumper shell hung. I'm gonna put one of our 12,000 pound synthetic rope monster winches in here. If you wanna see a winch install video, we've got them on our website also, so go check that out. But for now, we're just gonna kind of fast forward ahead and get that winch bolted in just like this. All right, now we need to pull our parking sensor and the parking sensor wire harness out of the OEM bumper so that we can transplant that over to our Ironman 4x4 premium bumper. Now, before I start just ripping things out of the truck, I'm gonna grab a paint pen and I'm gonna mark the position and orientation of each one of these parking sensors because they need to go right back in the way they came out or we'll have issues. So I'm gonna draw a little up arrow so I know that this is pointed up. So I'm gonna do L and O for left outside. I'll draw an up arrow and this is gonna be left and I for inside. Right, R for right, I for inside. All right, so pulling this sensor out, just push that tab out and kind of rock it. And hold it in place, get that tab, rock it out, kind of wiggling back and forth. Go slow and be kind of gentle because you definitely do not want to break those tabs. There we go. And we'll just work our way down and get the other three out same way. Let's also unhook our fog light. So just press down on that tab underneath, wiggle it back and forth. We'll get right and left, and then we can start popping all that out. I would recommend taking a photo of this before you get started so you don't get confused and turned around. We also want to unhook this little guy right here. I think it's either an antenna, it could be SRS, but either way, be really careful taking that out. We keep working our way across. Okay, now we've got the wire harness, kind of the bottom half unhooked. Let's pull this bracket off, push that tab up nice and high, and then pull back on the bracket, it'll pop out. And we'll do that down and across. Make sure you unhook this wire harness right here. So we'll press that tab and take that out like that. Then we'll grab a 10 mil and we'll pull 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Haha, nailed it. Okay, set that aside. Let's also free up the wire harness around our radar. Right here, push that tab down nice and hard and wiggle. There we go. The reason why we're doing all this, because we're gonna pull these side panels off, we'll get all this is getting removed. We just want this top grill, and then we'll make a cut right up here, keep all that. All right, so grab yourself a Phillips drive, and we're gonna pull these side wings off for now. Okay, that comes off. I'm gonna keep all the hardware in that wing. Do the same thing over here on the other side. And that just lifts right up and out. Oh, so nice. We also have to pull these Phillip head screws out right here. We're trying to pull apart as much of the factory plastic as we can. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. All right, now we just need to separate this back plastic support piece that's got our fog lights. All that needs to come out. So we're gonna just slowly pry. We've got all these little tabs here. And the goal is, as we separate all this out from our lower grill, see right here, this piece caps over. We don't have to take all that out. We can kind of just stretch it up a little bit and sneak that out. Another way to make this job a lot easier, grab some body panel pry tools. Plastic works best so you don't like scratch anything, but as you start to pop these little retainer clips, you kind of have to keep positive pressure. So as you work your way through, you want to keep kind of wedging this so it doesn't snap back in place. There we go. There we go. Now we're making some progress. That tab in there, and then that'll sit up. Oh my goodness, look at that, we have done it. All right, so this is what you're left with, which is what we want. Now we have to make a cut because we want to get these little back plastic pieces here just to help support that front fascia of our grill. So I'll grab that, we'll make some cuts. This is the lower half of the bumper that we just took off. Spin it around, and I will show you where I made marks with a paint pen right here. See how that comes up to this corner right here? We're gonna cut right below that lug and across. We just want these two little top pieces to bolt back in here for extra support. So I'm gonna use my multi-tool. I'm gonna cut right through there, do both sides. You do the same. We'll meet back here and get those put back on. Other side's done too. All right, so let's go back through. We're gonna pop this little silver tab, which lifts this up, and then I'm gonna take this guy, I'm gonna brace it. I'm gonna take the piece that we just cut, I'm gonna fit it under here. See how these tabs go in? We'll pull that out, and that all just locates right back in. Then what we'll do, remember those screws I told you to set aside and don't lose? And I'll grab my Phillips, lightly on the lowest torque setting. That one goes there, 3. All right, we'll do the same thing over here. I'll just lift this, I'll push that silver tab in, and then kind of wedge that in there to keep that up. We'll fit this over these tabs and in behind. Click that down into place, pull the wedge, that locks down, and then we've got 1, 2, and 3 of those screws that we took out that we'll plug back in. All right, I've got the front right plastic piece that we took off, the side wing, and this line right here where that natural break is in the form, we're gonna measure about 1 inch below that, and we'll make our cut right here. Now look, I'm gonna take blue tape and I'm gonna put it right on that natural break, and I'm just gonna follow that line all the way down. All right. I think it looks good. Just do the same thing on the other side. So we've got our bottom cuts done on our front plastics out on the wings, but we also need to make another cut up here where the plastic ties into that top of the metal front quarter panel. And to do that, we've got a cut template online. So go on to the web page. Under instructions, there's a cut template listed there. It's a PDF. Now it's gonna print in 3 pages, so make sure you set your printer to 100% scale, print it out. What we've done is we've put these little tape measure lines here, and what this is for is this is a reference, so you can set your tape measure right there and make sure that it lines up. So I'm looking at the metric side here, and look at that, dead nuts perfect. Got page 1, page 2, page 3, line up all your registration points, tape it up, cut it all out, and bang, you have a cut template for your bumper. After you have this cut template, we'll take this side piece right here, and you line it up with the directions. So our headlights here, vents here, lower vent. I'll take a paint pen, I'll trace that out. We'll make the cut. I'll take the template, I'll flip it over for the other side, because it's just, you know, the reverse. Lay it right out here. I'll trace out that, we'll make our cut. Then once we get this all installed back on the truck and get the bumper shell hung, we can make some fine trimming adjustments. Just remember, this cutting template is a guide. It's not gonna be dead nuts perfect, especially if you print it out incorrectly. So do your homework, make sure that your scale is printed correctly, and like always, cutting plastics is like a haircut. Go slow, take a little bit at a time, because once you take too much off, you can't go back. All right, so before you just get in there and go hog wild cutting on this thing, take a dry run first. Same thing with welding or cutting or anything. You kind of want to, like, how am I going to hold the piece of work? What tool am I using? And how's that going to feel as I come around? So again, here I'm kind of freehanding it. So I want to make sure I'm holding it in a way that's comfortable so I can make a smooth, even, continuous cut and work my way out without getting myself into trouble. And now I'm gonna take a flap disc and just clean that cut up until I get it where I want. All right, let's get these little side wings that we just cut put back on our grill. So I'll set that up here. We'll grab our little side pieces. These guys go right back in here, and another one goes right in here. And we will zip these back down. All right, now we're gonna grab our louver set that we took out. So we are gonna get the top 3 tins spun back down. And the bottom 3 down here, pull those out, because those aren't gonna mount to the grill. Those will mount on that when we get it put back on. So set those to the side. I'll grab a 10 mil and tighten them down. All right, we'll tighten the middle one down. And again, you're working on plastic here, so go easy. You don't want to bust these tabs. All right, with this being tight, we're going to take this connector and hook it back up. Now, the power louvers are hooked back into our main wire harness, which is good. And we're getting close to hanging this thing back on the front of the truck. But before we do that, we have a couple more brackets we need to fit to the winch tray. Let's put our grill brackets in. You've got a left and a right. You want to position them like this. We'll throw our spacer on the back side, and we've got our bolt and washer, and that threads right in there. There we go. We'll do the same thing on the other side. And these brackets here are going to tie in to the bottom of our louvers. All right, now we're going to grab our grill and we're going to just hang it back on here, kind of mock it up. So I have got one of our 10 mil bolts that go up top. So I'm just gonna spin that in and catch a few threads. And that just goes right back in like that. I'll do the same thing on the other side. So now that that's there, I can show you down here, those brackets that we installed, those are gonna fit right in here like that. So we'll bolt that one in there. Same thing over here, let me get that moved. We're gonna make a mark right here. This bottom plastic piece, we wanna cut a relief out so that our clutch handle on our winch is free. Now remember, you're not gonna see anything in here because the top deck of the bumper is gonna fit right up here, pretty nice and tight. So things like this tab that hang down, I'm gonna zip that off, get all that removed so it's out of my way, because we're gonna come through the front of the bumper to reach in here to get access to our winch clutch handle. So I'm gonna mark out here, and I'm gonna pull the grill out, and turn my clutch up into the free spool position, mark back there, and then I wanna cut out here so that we have the full sweep of that handle. Once I have that, I can take the grill back off, make the cut, we'll be good to go. I've got my cut all painted out, so I'm gonna go ahead and get cutting. I'm gonna try to leave this little ridge right here attached. I don't wanna split it if I don't have to. All right, got the cut made. I'll fit this back up here, see if that did the trick. Hey, there we go. Perfect. All right, so we're gonna grab some fasteners here and get this bracket hooked to the bottom of that louver mount, and that will really give us some rigidity. So I'm gonna run a bolt through the back side there, and then we'll run a flat washer, split washer, and the nut. And then I'm gonna grab a 13. Now you might need to put a socket on the back of that, but it seems to be biting down pretty good. Also, it's plastic, and while that does have a metal crush sleeve in the plastic, you still don't want to go too tight. So I'll do the same thing on the other side. Tighten that down. Now we've got our wire harness hanging down, but that's okay because once we hook our bumper shell on, we can plug all of our parking sensors back in. What I am gonna do is go up behind here and clip what I can back into the plastic grill. So I'll do that on this side and that side. All right, now we can start putting together the components that are gonna go on the front of our bumper shell. I'm gonna start with the flip up license plate bracket that goes around the fairlead. So you wanna grab these setups of hardware right there, these nylon spacers, and then a couple of these little clip-in nuts that are gonna go in here. That way your license plate can bolt to the front there. Washer goes through that hole there. Flat washer, split washer, and nut. And that's how you get the hinge together. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Cool. Then you can mount that on your fairlead like that, and when you're not using your winch, you can close that thing down, have your license plate here. It'll protect your winch line. If you're running a synthetic winch, it'll keep the UV off of it and keeps all the dirt and the bugs out too. Then you're only flipping it up when you actually need your winch. Last piece, we'll take these little clips right here, and these actually go in the back. You leave that little tang right there, push down, clips right in. Just put that in there for now until we get that license plate on. Cool. All right, now we can get our flip-up license plate bracket and our Ironman Monster Winch fairlead installed. So this is all gonna go like that. You're gonna grab these. This came in with your winch. And if you're not using a winch, there's some other hardware that came like this. So you can grab those and then just bolt that right here if you're not running a winch. But since we're running a winch and we want both, we will do it this way. And this is a number 8 Allen head. We'll drop those down there like that. You don't need any washers, just drop those right down there like that. And that's gonna hold together. Now, you need to go to the back side of the bumper, but before you do, I'm gonna put this number 8 right there. And you can see on the back side of that bolt, we'll run flat washer, split washer, and a 19mm nut. All right, then I'm gonna grab a 19. And that is what that looks like. And if your action's too loose, we'll just tighten that up, or if it's too tight, loosen it. Now is a great time to get your Ironman 4x4 cube lights, scopes, light bars, all your lighting options, get them installed now before we get this shell on the front of the truck. So I'm gonna quickly get these 6 pod lights installed. Bang, lights are installed. Now we can get our parking sensor brackets in. And to do that, we wanna find this little package of adhesion promoter because we're gonna wipe these little hole spaces down, make sure that's good to go. Then we're gonna take these little sticky double-sided gaskets, put those on our plugs, smack them in there. These things are gonna cement down into the inside of your bumper real nice so they don't come out. Now, with this adhesion promoter, when you open this thing up, it's a little sponge full of chemical crap. My suggestion is you probably don't wanna huff this stuff. So work fast and hold your breath. All right, so we're gonna grab our little double-sided sticky gaskets. I also recommend wearing gloves because then you won't transfer the oil on your fingers. to what you're trying to stick. Line that up. Doesn't have to be totally perfect, just fairly perfect. And I'm gonna lay out all 4 of those. All right, so then we're gonna peel the red backer off like so. Now, when you stick these, you gotta remember your orientation, and those parking sensors lay horizontally in the bar. So this needs to go vertically up and down. Line it up. We'll move down the line, get the other 3 done. You might have noticed that if you're gonna try to fit the bumper on the truck, the OEM wire harness for the parking sensors is not gonna be long enough to reach the new positions where we relocated the parking sensors. So we have extension wire harnesses included. So what you can do, since we need to kind of do all of our wire management, well, we've got the shell on the bench there, is we will unhook our parking sensor from our factory harness. Now these work upside down or right side up. They just don't work that way. So we'll clip it into the housing, get it centered up, and it goes right in like that. I'll take the wire harness extension and feed it through here, through this pass through. There we go. And then that plugs right back in. There we go. And then we've got all these holes right here for cable management so you can run zip ties. So I'll just continue down with all the other parking sensors, going one at a time so I don't get confused. And we'll get the parking sensors put in here and the extensions attached. I know I've jumped around a little bit, but one thing I wanted to clean up is the fender flare. So unless you want your truck looking like a saber-tooth Tundra, we got to get this fender flare cut to match the cut of the bumper. Then we can get the front of the shell hooked up and mounted on the truck. Now there's 2 ways of doing it. One is you already know what your cut is underneath here. We already did that. So you can just kind of mock this back up, mark it, throw a straight edge, make the cut. This was that template that you printed out earlier. And if you hold that up here, that also will give you a good reference. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. All right, before we get that bumper shell up here and hung, don't forget to move this wire harness, and we're gonna tuck it kind of up and behind, because if we leave it down here below, once we fit that on, we won't be able to get, you know, all of our access to our parking sensors. So I'm gonna keep that up here and out of the way because we want good access. Those plates are gonna come right in here like this. So that is looking pretty darn good to me. All right, now I gotta get the front bumper shell hung. Now, you're gonna need probably 1 or 2 guys to help you do this. I'd have the hardware packs set out so that once you kind of get the 2 plates to meet, you can run a bolt through and let it hang. I'm gonna cheat and use a forklift. So if you have a forklift, you're welcome to also use it.
I'm in like 2 more inches.
All right, so we get these lined up. I like to go in the center, and we'll just get a bolt in there so that it doesn't go anywhere. All right, cool. I'll jump to the other side and do the same thing, and I'll grab the rest of it. So I'm grabbing all the hardware setups. There should be 6 total, so we'll run 3 here and 3 on the other side. So this bar, the shell has a ton of adjustability up and down and in and out, but the thing's heavy. So I'm gonna take a couple of these pull jacks, and that is how I'm gonna get my adjustment perfect, because I'm doing this install by myself. Now I've got this lined up and I'm holding it in place. Zach is gonna go ahead and start to snug stuff up on this side. You just wanna get 2 bolt sets kind of snug, because I don't want this side to move. Then we'll go to the other side, get that set where we want it, start to lock everything down. All right, the bar is on. I've got it set where I think I want it. The hardware is snug. The pull jack trick worked so good. I'm gonna lower the truck down, make sure the hood clears the top hoop, check it out, make sure it's exactly where I want it. Then I'll start locking hardware back down. All right, we're under the truck, kind of looking up into the back of the bumper shell. I'm gonna hook up my parking sensor wires. So I will plug that into place. This one goes right here, like that. That goes right there. Awesome. Don't forget to hook up your front radar. All right, all of our parking sensors are hooked up. Now we can start addressing the rest of this main wire harness. This guy here was our little antenna, so we will zip tie all this up and out of the way so it doesn't get tangled up in our winch or any of our gear. You've also got to zip tie up your fog light wires. So I wired this truck up so that all the fog lights are gonna work off of a switch panel, so I didn't use my fogs. But you can directly wire into your fogs some aftermarket lights if you want. But for us, we're just gonna zip tie this up, get it out of the way. Now we need to drill for the pinning bolts. And the way this works is we have an inner plate, which is our winch tray, and we have the outer plate, which is the winch shell. And now that we have the whole thing set in position, we don't want it to move. If we cross drill through the two plates and put these hardened pinning bolts in, it will maintain the position. It's like a marker. Like, we always know exactly where this bumper needs to go. So if you ever have to pull the shell off to do some work on your truck, when you go to put it on, as long as these pinning bolts line back up and go in, the bumper will be in the exact same position as it is now. So the trick you want to do, grab a drill bit that's just a teeny bit smaller than the bolt. We'll drill from this side through that outer plate, and then this bolt will hog down through, super tight, we'll bolt it in, it won't move. You're gonna have 4 sets of this hardware right here. It's got a big fat number 6, or I guess if you go that way, it's number 9, which is probably what it is. Anyways, these are your pinning bolts. So once we drew the pinning holes from the inside out, go ahead and set these through. Get them locked down, it'll hold your bumper in position. We'll run that through there, just like that. And now all we gotta do is get the 3 other sets done, 1 up here and 2 on the other side. We'll get those things locked down. Cool. All right, grab a 14 for the head of the bolt and a 17 for the nut. We'll get this thing tightened down. All right, now we can get the underside protection of these gravel guards installed. So this big center plate is gonna fit right up here like this. And if you've got a TRD skid plate on your truck, it will work. So if you look right back here, we're gonna put nut certs right here and right here, tie that in, we'll hook up the front. That's how it goes. All right, now go find this hardware setup. These are called butterfly nuts. You feed this in through like that, bend it a little bit, bring it back down, bend that tab just like that, and then that can bend out of the way. And we'll put that tab right there, and now we've got a little nut tab right there that this bolt can grab onto when we put our center gravel guard on. Cool. All right, the easiest way to get this center plate on is kind of want to work from the center. If you can hold it with one hand, if you're doing this by yourself, and then take a hardware setup, this cap head hex, and get that in there. Finger tight. Make sure you've got a couple threads going on. There we go. And now that'll hold in place. All right, now we can go ahead and try to land this hardware set back here with the square washer on it. And that'll hold the back of the plate. All right, so grab these little black hex cap screws with split washer and flat washer. They're a number 5 Allen. And we'll finish this up, get them tightened down. You really don't want to get these too tight, just enough to flatten out that split washer. These 2 in the back are a number 6 Allen. Perfect. All right, now we're gonna grab this little wind deflector plate. This kind of helps push the air to the right direction so that your truck stays nice and cool. And this plate goes in like this. It's got welded nuts on the backside. And you'll have 1, 2, and 3 right here. So grab 3 sets of these number 4 Allen bolts with split washer and flat washer, and then we'll bolt this into place. And this plate goes underneath. So I'm gonna start with the center, kind of line it up, catch a thread, sweet, and we'll grab the other side. All right, that is in. Now we can get our side gravel guard plates on, kind of these wing pieces here. Now you're gonna need 5 sets of fasteners. All right, and those cap head bolts are a number 5 Allen. So I'll put this plate up here like that, and I like to start in the middle. Now they might go in a little tight because of the powder coat, but don't worry about it. As you work them in, it'll clear that out, the threads. You just wanna leave them loose so you can still adjust this where you need it. All right, that's tight. All right, let's get this right side plate on. Again, I like to start in the middle, get a few threads, and we can let it hang. Okay, so I'm just finishing this up. The kit comes with this big, really heavy-duty trim lock. So I'm gonna run that on the edge here. I think it cleans things up, makes it look nice. You don't have to run this. You know, some guys just prefer the plastic with a nice clean cut. But yeah, that's what this is for if you wanna use it. All right, let's just get our fender flare screws back in. Those were 10 mils. We took them out at the beginning of the install. Our fender flares all snap back into place. So we'll tighten those up nice and soft. You don't wanna strip them out. Now we had a third one down here that we're gonna lose access to. That's gone. But we've got 1 and 2 here that will bolt back. All right, that is nice and tight. And then when it comes to your inner fender liners, you can just make your cut, whatever seems appropriate, and you can tuck them back up behind this flange here and in behind the bumper. You can either zip tie it or kind of make it work for you. All right, truck is on the ground. Last few steps we have to do is get these tins put back in. Make sure that our grill is held in place. So we got 1, 2, 3, and 4. We got 2 plastic clips out on the edge. These guys right here. And those go right back in. We've got that clip in place. Connect that connector there. We'll reattach these 2 connectors. Sweet, that is set. And now we just gotta tighten these tins down. Bumper is on the truck. We are done. This thing is so tough. This Tundra looks so awesome. I love this front bumper. There's nothing out there that's more heavy duty, packed full of better features. Again, it's crash safety tested. It's compatible with all your airbags and with your safety sense. It's got these massive recovery points. It's got a winch bumper in it. Look, if you want this bumper, you gotta get it. Go to Ironman 4x4 America.com. We'll hook you up over there.